Hey, everybody, welcome to Monster Monday for January 11th, 2021. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Now, last week on Monster Monday, we began looking into a class of monsters that is new to D&D from a very interesting source. That source, of course, is the Wildemount sourcebook, Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. And Explorer's Guide to Wildemount comes from the Critical Role podcast. So it's all sprung from the imagination of uh, the amazingly talented DM Matt Mercer over there at Critical Role, and all of the things that he has done to build his world. So, uh, just like every other monster that's in a resource that goes to D&D, as soon as it is published, it is let loose from the confines of its original setting, and it is free to be used as you see fit in your campaign, Mr. and Ms. Dungeon Master. So that's what we are going to be looking at tonight, is how might you take this next monster and place it into a specific niche within your own campaign. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And the particular monster that we want to look at tonight is none other than the Aeorian Nullifier. The Aeorian Nullifier. Uh, last week, we looked at the Aeorian Absorber. This week is the Nullifier. There's one more Aeorian monster we're going to be looking at next week. And perhaps next week we'll see how the three of them kind of work together in the ecosystem that they have. I want to say a special thanks, as always, to Mo over at the Tabletop Bellhop for including us in his constellation of podcasts and streamers that talk about uh, different aspects of tabletop gaming. If you want access to any kind of information about tabletop games, publishers, gameplay, news, reviews, actual play, whatever, go over and see Mo at the Tabletop Bellhop, and he will hook you up. All right. Tonight's monster is the Aeorian Nullifier. Rather terrifying looking creature, if you ask me. An Aeorian Nullifier is a humanoid creature that stands around 10 feet tall. So close to the size of a hill giant. Its arms are long, ending in oversized clawed hands. The Aeorian Nullifier's head is serpentine. Okay, I can see serpentine. I can also vaguely see something like turtle with teeth. Um, which I guess turtles, are they reptiles? I guess they're reptiles. So yeah, reptilian, serpentine. And across its chest are numerous mouths filled with fangs. Its skin is yellow with patches of orange along the arms and legs. This is the picture that we get out of the D&D Beyond picture that comes with the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount if you have it in book form. All right, so now what is uh, the specific role of the Aeorian Nullifier in the lore of Critical Role? So they're one of three types of creatures known as Aeorian hunters, and each was created by the ancient mages of Aeor for a particular purpose to defeat the enemies of their creators. Now, the Aeorian Absorber can counter enemy casters' spells, and its gnashing mouths can frighten or stun enemies that are nearby. And according to some sites, they were specifically created to work against the divine. So either working against the gods themselves or against the servants of the gods. So that is kind of their niche and their role in terms of what they were created for and what they're intended to do. In D&D 5e, every creature has to have a type, and the Aeorian Nullifier is considered a monstrosity. Right, so monstrosities are monsters in the strictest sense, frightening creatures that are not ordinary, not truly natural, and almost never benign. Some of the results of magical experimentation gone awry, such as owlbears, others are the products of terrible curses, including minotaurs, Yuan-Ti. Others, like the Aeorian hunters, the class of monsters we're looking at these 3 weeks, um, are not experiments gone awry, but they are purpose built, purpose created for, by very smart or very crazy mages for a particular reason. They defy categorization and in some sense serve as catch-all category for creatures that don't fit into any other type. All right, now here comes one of people's favorite segments about the show is where we go and we look at the monster throughout the editions of D&D, or in this case, throughout its evolution from a monster that appeared somewhere in Critical Role to monster that appears in a D&D sourcebook. All right, so let's go ahead and flip on over and take a look at that. We're going to look at the Critical Role wiki, first of all, just to kind of get an overview of Aeor. Aeor was a pre-calamity floating city that crashed in Eiselcross. It's currently being excavated by a few outposts for the ancient relics found there. And the fauna, the Aeorian hunters, include the Aeorian Absorber, which we looked at last week, the Aeorian Nullifier, tonight's monster, and the Aeorian Reverser, which we will look at next week. Now, this Aeorian Nullifier is a variety of Aeorian hunter designed to destroy divinity. So this creature actually appeared in an episode of Critical Role when the Mighty Nine found a nullifier intact within its containment tube in the ruins of A2 on Foreign in Eiselcross. All right, and so what is this Eiselcross, you say? Well, what is this thing that we are talking about? Well, Eiselcross is this island that sits kind of to the north of the main continent where the story of Critical Role is set. And there are these, you see it has Aeor crash site here on the map, and there are actually different sub areas, and you encounter different kinds of things based on your level that you're adventuring there. The last week's monster you encounter between levels 5 and 10, the Aeorian Absorber, which would ambush the character. And then 11 to 16, we don't have the Aeorian monsters. And then on 17 through 20, 1d4 plus 1 Aeorian nullifiers are frozen in the ice. So you might encounter as many as 5 of these guys. All right. Oh gosh. Aeorian nullifier. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Now, last week we looked at the Absorber, and the Absorber had like a CR, I think it was CR 10 that the Aeorian Absorber was, but the Aeorian Nullifier is a CR 12 monster, so it's a little bit tougher. And it's got some interesting effects. First of all, it has this horrid gnashing, and Nullifier's mouths gnash incoherently while it can see any enemies. Each creature that starts its turn within 20 feet of the Nullifier and can hear it must make a DC 16 Wisdom saving throw. Unless a save succeeds, a creature rolls a D8 to determine what it does during the current turn. So you make a saving throw, you fail the saving throw, and it acts kind of like some of those spells, kind of like the Confusion spell, except the effects are a little bit different on the Horrid Gnashing. It's stunned until the end of its turn and can't do anything. It's frightened until the end of its turn and uses movement to get as far away from the Nullifier as possible. Or it doesn't move and it uses its action to make one melee attack against a random creature other than itself that's within reach. Otherwise, it does nothing. So, the Nullifier's innate spell casting. Yeah, I find this interesting. We tend to think of charisma in D&D terms as how pretty you are. I think most people hearing my voice and watching this would probably agree that thing ugly. It's ugly. But actually, charisma is, of course, a lot more than just your looks. It's kind of your leadership or your ability to affect people. And the charisma of this monster is an 18. So it's got a high charisma. So that means that all of its innate spell casting has a save DC of 16. At will, it can counterspell. So just at will. Anytime something happens, counterspell, 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 counterspell. Then it can also detect magic, dispel magic, or see invisibility. And once per day, it can do an anti-magic field. Also, it has magic resistance. It has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. So, thing has a 17 armor class, 180 hit points. It moves 40 feet. And it's got all these other defenses. So this guy is not easy to take down. This guy is going to, is really going to do. And then, guess what? Damage immunities. It's immune to both necrotic and radiant damage. So how do you like them apples? It's just flat out immune to radiant. All of your fancy clerical spells, all of your fancy clerical weapons now. Don't touch it. Nope. Multi-attack makes 3 attacks, 1 with its bite and 2 with its claws. Bite is +8 to hit and 2d12 +4 piercing damage, plus 11 additional force damage. So 17 and 11, 28 average damage for every attack. The claws, +8 to hit, deals 11 slashing damage and 11 force damage. So average of 22 points per attack. And the target is grappled. Escape DC 16 if it's a creature. Nullifier has 2 claws, each one of which can grapple a creature. Those oversized claws, it's oversized for a reason. It doesn't need 2 claws to grapple you. It can grapple you and your friend at the same time. Counterspell. Nullifier attempts to interrupt a creature that can see within 60 feet in the process of casting a spell. Now this is a reaction. So, we say at will up here, but it has to use a reaction to counter the spell, and it only gets 1 reaction per round. So it's not quite, if you're going up against it with 4 spellcasters, it's not quite doing that. You can, uh, if your spellcasters are prepared for it, and if they coordinate together, and they can kind of say, okay, somebody do a spell that nobody cares about if it gets interrupted. Okay, I'll magic missile it. Counter spell the magic missile. All right, so then we're gonna hit it with these other things. All right. Nullifiers are the bane of all magic users. Physical form and innate power is shaped specifically to resist and cancel magical effects. Against other foes, Nullifier is no less fearsome, for the grotesque mouths filled with razor-sharp teeth that cover its torso, which set up a cacophony of gnashing that can drive other creatures mad. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then we talked about some of these qualities that are common to Aeorian hunters last week, so I'm not going to go through those again. You can go back and watch last week's episode on the Aeorian Absorber for more information about that. All right, now we're going to jump back into our review of the Aeorian Nullifier. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum. How might you use these in encounters, and how could you create a hard or challenging encounter with these creatures for a party of 5 PCs by level? If you have a party of 7th level characters, and again, using 5 as the number of characters in your party, at level 7, a single Aeorian Nullifier poses a borderline deadly challenge to that party. At level 8 or 9, it's still a hard challenge. So 7, 8, 9, you're going to give a party. At 7, you're really going to give a party a run for your money, and they might have 1 or 2 people actually hit the deck with 0 hit points before the end of the fight. 8 and 9, they're going to have to use a significant number of their resources, and probably a few people are going to be down. You might have 1 or 2 people bloodied at not down on the ground, but 1 or 2 people might be bloodied, and a lot of people will be low on resources by the end of the fight. Level 10 or 11, it's just a medium encounter. You want to bump it up to a hard encounter, add one of those Aeorian reversers. And at level 12 to 16, and okay, I should say on the medium encounter at level 11, to make it a hard encounter, add an Aeorian reverser. At level 10, you want to add something a little bit less than an Aeorian reverser. Then level 12 to 16, it's going to be easy. And if you want to make it a hard encounter at level 16, you have a couple of different choices. You can add an extra Aeorian Nullifier, or you can add 2 Aeorian Reversers, or you can add an Aeorian Absorber and 4 adult Kuthrix. Now, why am I choosing the monsters that I'm choosing? I like to build encounters with a similar type of monster. The Nullifier is a monstrosity, so I like to look at other monstrosities to build the encounter. You don't have to. There's really there's no law. The Dungeon Master Police aren't going to come to your house and arrest you if you don't build an encounter that way. You build an encounter however you want, and however it makes sense for your particular campaign. But when I'm just throwing out theoretical encounters, I like to do the theoretical encounters with all creatures of the same type. It just makes it easier to pick things. In all honesty, and it just seems like, okay, what can I find that might fit a theme here? All right, so where could you place these in campaigns? Now, the obvious answer is if you are adventuring in Wildemount, they are native to this. Well, they're now native to this island area of Isle Cross. Great cataclysm, the city of Aeor that once levitated high in the sky came crashing down on the island. Now, you can also take them to your homebrew world, and they can keep their same name or be renamed to match your setting. Um, let's say, let's say that you have decided in your game that the multiverse of D&D includes everything from the Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, um, Ravenloft, all of the other, um, well, Ravenloft, I should say, Barovia, all of the other, worlds and settings that have been created for D&D. Uh, Maybe your party is not in Wildemount, but maybe your antagonist has been to Wildemount and has found one of these things and has brought it home and now has it as a guardian in its lair. Eh, okay, so you might have to deal with that. Uh, Basically, wherever you have call for a CR12 monster, and it would kind of make sense to have something that would scare the bejesus out of your PCs and make your players probably go, ooh, then, you know, that's what you want. Eh, eh, Now, if you have players that look at that, at this monster and go, "Aw," you probably need to get new players. But because your players probably should go, "Ooh," when they see this thing, and not "Ah." Of course, your players can go, "Cool," and that's fine. But now reskinning the monster. The Aeorian Nullifier provides an interesting possibility based on its strange details. All right, we said last week that we imagined a hybrid last week with the Aeorian Absorber between a Displacer Beast and a Beholder because of its physical form. Well, now, its physical form, it's bipedal. So maybe this is a hybrid between a mad wizard and a gibbering mouther. or maybe it's just maybe it's the maybe you're running maybe you are a green DM, and I don't mean green in the sense that you've never DM'd before. I mean green as in you are an environmental warrior. And so maybe you want to run your campaign as the creature from the Black Lagoon. And what happens? The evils of toxic sludge. Maybe there's an industrial city the size and scope of Waterdeep, and there's a swamp where all of the industrial waste runs off into. And now people are going missing near that swamp. And your adventurers are sent out to find out why. And they come upon this thing. Oh, yeah, it's born of all the sludge from all of the runoff from the rituals that all the churches are doing with their divine magic and all the experimentation that the wizards are doing from their wizard towers and all of the chemicals that the alchemists are using, and it all just percolates down into that sludge, and it all just sort of, you know, mommy chemical and daddy reagent sort of got together, and they had a very special hug, and this beautiful creature came out of it. you know, who knows? And then in terms of what you're going to do to you're going to name it whatever you want to name it. And then if you want to flip around the effects a little bit, instead of countering spells, every time it's hit with spell damage, maybe there's a 50% chance that it redirects the damage to another target, or a 50% chance that the caster of that spell is stunned until the end of their next turn. So you could really do some wild things with this. Um, you don't have to tweak it much. Change a little bit here, change a little bit there. Instead of making it reptilian, make it more humanoid. Um, yeah, lots of lots of fun stuff that you could do with this. Lots of ways that you could make this thing into a new and wonderful thing for your players to encounter. All right. So I am looking at the chat, and so far I don't see any questions. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go into the roundup, and I'll come back and I'll check for questions in a few moments. All right. I have been DM Gallibond. This has been Monster Monday, and we have been talking about the Aeorian Nullifier. Come back next week when we talk about our third and final Aeorian monster, and then sort of see how they kind of fit together, these three. If you want more content on Twitch, on my Twitch channel, you can stop by 3 times a week for actual play games. Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m., we do a planeswalking game called The Walker of Waterdeep. Thursday evening, we do a 5e campaign called the Sword Coast Chronicles. That's kind of our love letter to the published 5th edition campaigns from Wizards of the Coast. And you can stop by, see what we're doing, and join us on those nights. Then on Saturday night at 7:30 p.m., we're doing the Lost Mine of original D&D. Lost Mine? Wasn't there a 5e adventure called Lost Mine? You say to yourself, yes, there was. The Lost Mine of Phandelver. What we're doing is we are retelling that story, but instead of using 5th edition rules, we are using the rule set from the 1970s of original D&D. The idea is to expose players to a familiar story with unfamiliar rules and see how this works out. And the players, the ones that are sticking with it, they're really enjoying it because the magic user has realized that, wow, I may be extremely squishy, but I'm really powerful as a magic user. Um, because she's building a goblin army for herself. Oh no, we're not just going to go around indiscriminately killing goblins. No, we're going to put the goblins to sleep, and then we're going to uh, charm the bugbears, and we're gonna make the bugbears love us. And in this edition of the game, if you cast Charm Person on somebody and they have an intelligence as low as a bugbear, they fail that first saving throw. They have to wait a month before they get another saving throw. So you land that first charm, now you've got a whole month to you know get this guy to being your best friend. And when the charm wears off, the way charm person works in the original edition, when that charm works off, if you treated them well, they may not turn on you. So you may indeed be able to build an army of goblinoids by the time you get to the end of a month, just by charming the leaders and having them tell all the goblins what to do. So this is the way this campaign is going, and I'm there for it. Let's just run with it and see what happens. Um, Also, of course, it's a lot easier for people to die in this because there's no saving throws, or there's no death saving throws. There's no, when you go unconscious when you hit 0 and you have to go to your negative hit points. If you go to 0, you're just dead. End of story. And at low levels, you don't have the money to raise people again from the dead. So we're having some fun with this little adventure and telling this story. So, all right, I'm looking. I still don't see any questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. Thank you guys for watching. Whether you joined us tonight live or whether you were watching during the week, hello, future people. You will find the archives over on my YouTube channel, YouTube, bit.ly/YTDM Gallibond. There's also Patreon if you want to support what we're doing and help us make even more content. That would be fantastic. We would really appreciate it. And I will sign off as I do every week by reminding you to watch out for the monsters under the bed. Good night, everybody.